So Labour, the Liberal Democrats, and the Green Party are planning to come together for the next general election and form a sort of a coalition to stop Reform winning it in a move that I'm not too sure how I feel about it. I'm going to go through what it is exactly, and I don't understand or why it's come this early into this Parliament sitting, really, 3 years before the next election. But apparently, according to the iPaper, Labour, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens, and obviously other progressive parties are going to be coordinating their messaging and resources to key sort of swing seats where progressive candidates have a higher chance of winning as opposed to those right wing candidates from Conservatives and Reform. Similar to kind of what they did in the 2024 election, but it was a very different scenario, really. This was obviously seen in the Caerphilly election earlier last year in Wales, where we saw that Plaid Cymru won that by-election by a lot more than people expected. Obviously, like 11%, most people expected it would be 3 or 4% win because the Liberal Democrats and the Greens didn't campaign as much and spend as much money in the hope that people would then vote for Plaid Cymru over Reform as they were the next best candidate to beat them. And obviously it worked. So they decided that they're going to be doing a similar thing again in the next general election. But I'm going to explain why I really don't like this for a number of reasons, really. The first one is we're still 3 years out from the next election, right? Anything could happen. Reform could and probably will implode by then and slip down the polls. That's pretty much a given whenever Nigel Farage decides to run a party. But 3 years out is a long time in British politics, you know? Especially considering where the parties that are colliding are right now. I mean, Labour are incredibly unpopular. So about 18% of people are actually planning on voting for them, down from, 35% in the election. They've lost half their voter base. The Liberal Democrats are sort of stagnating and no one's really hearing much from them. And then the Green Party are completely on the rise and literally exponentially increasing their members and going up in the voting intention polls as well. So it's a very, very weird that they're doing this 3 years before the election. And, parties are yet to none of these three parties have actually released a proper policy yet, obviously, apart from the government, like the Greens and Liberal Democrats. So it's very weird to me that they would decide to do this now, especially if that gives Reform time to do whatever they want, really. And just the main point of literally anything can happen. For all we know, all three of these parties could literally have imploded by then and may not even be planning on competing in the next election. Like, surely you would decide this a year at most, probably, 8, 6 months before the election, that you're going to do a sort of coalition type thing with other parties, because then you'd be able to determine, hang on, we're probably going to lose this election. It's not looking good for our parties and our reputation. Let's come together and create a coalition which satisfies the needs of more people. But doing it 3 years out is very, very odd. And obviously, considering that Labour are the one party that most people would vote against, kind of makes me wonder why the other two parties would want to work with them so much. Like, yes, they're in government, but at the same time, they're a really, really unpopular government. So surely that would again make the Liberal Democrats and Greens unpopular as well, because people will be thinking, oh, why are they working with Labour? I hate Labour, and these people seem to think they've got good ideas and they want to work with. Another issue I have with it is that, yes, we saw in Caerphilly that this tactic worked, but that was a one-off by-election, right? First of all, the turnout for it was much lower than a normal general election. It wasn't necessarily hyped up as much as the general election is. And you've got to think that instead of one seat, they're going to be doing this across, about 100 seats. Like, are the results really going to stay the same? Because it's a whole different ball game when you're trying to shift one constituency towards one party, but then again, a third of the country towards one party or one progressive movement. And I think that this is probably just going to end up being a waste of resources, because at the end of the day, it's incredibly hard. People won't understand what's going on. People will get confused over what party they're supposed to be voting for. It's going to people like diehard Labour voters won't want to vote for a Liberal Democrat candidate because they don't agree fully with what they've been saying, or Green parties won't want to vote for Labour. And I think it's just going to cause just a massive calamity when it comes to those voting booths, and it's just not going to turn out the way they expect it to. The next point I want to say is that, first of all, if you're doing this 3 years out, but second of all, if you're doing this at all, it shows that all of these three parties have like admitted defeat, right? You're basically saying in this scenario that we're not very good, our policies aren't very good, our friends' policies or people on the same side of us, our policies aren't even good, but vote for us because we're not as bad, in our opinion, as Reform are. Which it doesn't fill you with much hope in these parties, that they're basically saying that they're crap, but not as crap as Reform, therefore vote for us. Like, I don't understand how parties expect to win elections on pretty much saying that they're not as bad as the others. They're the best of a bad bunch. Surely you want to be proud of your policies and you want to spearhead them and show people why they're going to work and why they should vote for you instead of using the opposition as a way of saying vote for us. Because that's not necessarily you saying that we deserve the votes, it's saying that they don't deserve the votes as much as we do. Especially considering that this is three parties as well that are saying this at the same time. It shows that does the left in the UK have any hope in their policies or in their, campaigning at all? Are they completely admitting defeat to reform and are just saying we're not as bad? Like that's a really, really weird way of campaigning, in my opinion. I don't know whether that is also going to resonate with voters because people might just see that as them admitting defeat. And I don't think in politics you want to vote for a party that doesn't even think that they're going to win by themselves. Whether this all happens is also dependent on the parties as well. Like, I don't think the Greens actually like Labour at all and any of the things that they stand for, especially because Labour has shifted to a more centrist position on the political spectrum as well. I really don't see how this is even going to work out. They've all got different priorities. These are some key issues in the country right now, but they all disagree on them. How on earth are they going to come to a pact where they're all going to agree that, hang on a second, the Green Party aren't going to win here, but the Democrats could, let's endorse them. And also, there's also the possibility of a Reform and Conservative Party coalition, which hasn't even been ruled out yet by either party, which could literally shift the table completely. Because at that point, you'll have the entire three left parties coming into one coalition, and then the two right parties going into one coalition as well. And you basically get another two-party system again. Then you get all the Reform and Tory voters voting similarly, and then all of the other parties. So it kind of just messes things up again. Now, some people have done some analysis on this announcement and pretty much come to the conclusion that this is only really right now going to affect about 30 seats that would switch to more progressive candidates from what they've currently got, which literally, when you look at current polling, doesn't add anything at all. Maybe it gets one of those parties over 100 seats, maybe 120. From right now, it's not looking great. It's going to be pretty ineffective if things stay the way they are. The only way that this is going to be effective is if Labour become more popular and they actually start to agree the left on more things and start creating more of a joint movement rather than three individual parties, and then look towards a coalition after the next election, which I think is probably going to be the scenario after the 2029 election. There'll be a coalition of some sort. But look, anything in this country is better than a reformed government. So I'm hoping, even if this does work, that it will be better than what we potentially could have, which will be just a calamity and a diabolical government led by a complete moron. It's still early days. We still don't know more any details and what could potentially happen here. We just know that they're in talks and it's a potential coalition type thing, potential plan in the future. Thank you guys for watching. My name's Alex on Politics. If you like this video, please subscribe and follow my TikTok. Nearly at 2,500 followers on there and 300 subscribers here. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.